A few years ago, I made a decision that scared me. Not because it was dangerous. Not because it required money. Not because it was impossible. It scared me because people might judge me for it. At the time, that fear felt completely reasonable. I kept imagining conversations that hadn't happened yet. I pictured people questioning my choices, criticizing my ideas, and laughing at my ambitions. The strange thing is that none of those things actually happened. The battle existed almost entirely inside my head. And looking back, I realized something important. Some of the biggest obstacles in life are not real obstacles at all. They are imagined opinions. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. You wanted to start something meaningful. A business. A YouTube channel. A new career. A new lifestyle. But before taking the first step, your mind created an audience. An invisible crowd watching your every move. Suddenly, instead of focusing on your goal, you became obsessed with what that imaginary crowd might think. That fear has stopped countless people from reaching their potential. Not because they lacked talent. Not because they lacked intelligence. Because they gave strangers too much power over their decisions. The Stoics understood this problem long before social media existed. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful men in the world, yet he constantly reminded himself not to become attached to praise or disturbed by criticism. Why? Because both are temporary. The same people who admire you today may disagree with you tomorrow. Public opinion changes like the weather. Building your identity around it is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. Most people never realize this. Instead, they spend years trying to gain approval from everyone around them. They change their personality depending on who they are talking to. They hide their true interests. They avoid saying what they really believe. They constantly seek validation. And eventually, they become strangers to themselves. The problem with living for approval is that approval never feels permanent. No matter how much praise you receive, your mind starts looking for more. It becomes an addiction. A need. A dependency. And the moment your happiness depends on someone else's opinion, you surrender control over your own peace. Successful people understand this. They know that confidence cannot be borrowed from other people. It must come from within. That doesn't mean they ignore feedback. It doesn't mean they believe they are always right. It simply means they do not allow external opinions to determine their self-worth. There is a huge difference between listening to advice and living for validation. One helps you grow. The other keeps you trapped. The truth is, every meaningful achievement requires the willingness to be misunderstood. Every entrepreneur. Every creator. Every leader. Every innovator. At some point, they all faced doubt from other people. If they had waited for universal approval, they would never have accomplished anything remarkable. And that is exactly why Stoicism remains so relevant today. Because in a world obsessed with attention, the ability to think independently has become a superpower. One of the most liberating lessons I ever learned was this. Most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. At first, that sounds disappointing. But it is actually freeing. Think about your own life. How much time do you spend analyzing every decision a stranger makes? How often do you sit for hours worrying about someone else's haircut, career choice, business idea, or personal goal? Probably not very often. You're busy thinking about your own life. Your own problems. Your own future. And everyone else is doing the same thing. Yet somehow, we convince ourselves that an invisible audience is constantly judging us. This illusion keeps people stuck. A talented person never starts creating content because they're afraid of negative comments. A brilliant entrepreneur never launches a business because someone might call it a bad idea. A young man never approaches opportunities because he fears rejection. A woman never follows her passion because she's worried her family won't understand. Years pass. Nothing changes. Not because they couldn't succeed. Because they never gave themselves permission to try. The Stoics believe that freedom begins when you separate what you can control from what you cannot. You can control your effort. You can control your discipline. You can control your honesty. You can control your character. You cannot control how every person interprets your actions. The moment you accept this reality, life becomes lighter. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day. Inside that backpack are expectations, judgments, criticism, and the opinions of strangers. Most people carry that weight for years without realizing it. Then one day they discover something shocking. The backpack was never theirs to carry. They can put it down. Successful people put it down. They stop trying to manage everyone's perception. Instead, they focus on becoming better. They understand that every minute spent worrying about criticism is a minute not spent improving. And improvement always creates better results than worrying. Marcus Aurelius wrote many reminders to himself about human opinion. Not because he was immune to criticism. Because he understood how dangerous it could become if allowed to dominate the mind. He knew that seeking approval is a trap. When people praise you, you feel good. When they criticize you, you feel bad. Soon your emotional state becomes dependent on forces outside your control. That is not freedom. That is emotional slavery. True confidence appears when your actions are guided by principles rather than applause. Imagine two people. The first person works hard only when others are watching. The second person works hard even when nobody notices. Which person is more powerful? The second one. Because their motivation comes from within. Their standards do not depend on an audience. Their discipline does not require validation. And that is exactly why they continue progressing while others remain stuck. The world rewards people who can stay committed to their path despite doubt, criticism, and misunderstanding. Not everyone will understand your vision. And they don't need to. Your job is not to convince everyone. Your job is to remain faithful to what matters. As I grew older, I began noticing a pattern. The people who achieved extraordinary things were rarely the people trying to please everyone. They were often misunderstood, questioned, doubted, sometimes even mocked. But they kept moving forward. Not because they enjoyed criticism. Because they valued their purpose more than approval. That is a lesson most people learn far too late. They spend years trying to be liked. Trying to fit in. Trying to avoid disagreement. Trying to make everyone comfortable. Then one day they realize something painful. No matter how hard you try, someone will still dislike you. Someone will still criticize you. Someone will still misunderstand your intentions. If criticism is unavoidable, why allow it to control your life? The Stoics understood that peace comes from focusing inward rather than outward. A person who constantly checks for approval will never feel secure. There will always be another opinion. Another comment. Another judgment. Another expectation. The cycle never ends. But a person who builds self-respect develops something far more valuable than approval. They develop inner stability. They know who they are. They know what they stand for. They know what matters. And because of that, outside opinions lose much of their power. This doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. A daily practice. Each time you choose courage over comfort, you become stronger. Each time you take action despite fear, you become more confident. Each time you remain true to yourself instead of performing for others, you strengthen your character. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for approval. You stop measuring your worth through other people's reactions. And for the first time, you begin living on your own terms. That is real freedom. Not having everyone agree with you. Not becoming universally admired. but being able to move forward regardless of what others think. Years from now, most people won't remember the opinions that once kept you awake at night. They won't remember the criticism. They won't remember the awkward moments. They won't remember the comments that seemed so important. But you will remember the opportunities you took. The risks you embraced. The challenges you faced. The life you built. Or the life you avoided building. That choice belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that people's opinions are fleeting. Time moves on. The crowd moves on. Life moves on. The question is whether you will move forward too. Because your future is too valuable to be controlled by temporary judgments. Your dreams are too important to be sacrificed for approval. Your potential is too great to remain trapped inside other people's expectations. So stop asking the crowd who you should become. Most of them are still trying to answer that question for themselves. Trust your values. Trust your effort. Trust your growth. Walk your own path even when it feels lonely. Because history is filled with people who changed their lives the moment they stopped living for validation. And perhaps the most powerful Stoic lesson of all is this. The day you stop needing everyone to believe in you is the day you finally begin believing in yourself.